I find that fascinating that there are two versions of the same book, and I wonder how collaborative it was. You know, how can you talk a bit more about the process?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Joaquin go next, but this was the book. The translation was a few years in the running. Joaquin just talked about how the book came about. Maybe I should say something about how the translation came about. I'd read two of his books. I think Lucia mentioned them earlier, but there they are. And I was quite interested in translating this one, A Verdade de Luz, because it's set in Lisbon and it's about the Cape Verdean community in Lisbon. I was living in Lisbon and it was a subject that interested me. At the time, Joaquim was in Praia in Cape Verde, and I sent him an email, but I was going to Cape Verde on holiday. So he said, well, why don't we meet? I'm actually working on a new book that might be even more interesting. So we had a coffee and he explained, talked me through the premise. And yeah, it sounded right up my street. It took a long time then to finally get a publisher to commit to it, by which time it was COVID. So I think I translated this in COVID. So there was less, I suppose. We didn't sit down and discuss things in a way
Mhm.
that, maybe we might have done in different circumstances. So I kind of got on with things and then sent a list of explanations of the bits I changed, suggestions of why one part might be shorter than, or why I thought maybe we could cut that or add something here. I was a little nervous, of course, at first sending it to Joaquin because, it's his book and I'm suggesting sometimes quite radical changes, but he understood why, and we had a Zoom, and then he suggested cutting another passage, and so on. So there was a bit of both, a bit of back and forth. I think ultimately Joaquin had to trust me quite a lot because it's not just a question of language. The translator obviously is this bridge between cultures, and he had to sort of trust my judgment on what worked best for an English readership. Then, of course, there's the third party, and that's the publisher. And in this case, the publisher was American. Neither me and Joaquin, we know American culture because we all do, but we don't really know what exactly a Californian publisher is going to make of this book, what bits they want more of or less of. So again, the editor there, Chris Hesse, he was sending me feedback saying, "Oh, we didn't really understand how this bit joined to that bit," and so on. So at times, I filled in the gaps, or sometimes took things out if he thought it was too much. Occasionally, he asked Joaquin for more detail or to write a new paragraph to fill in a gap, and basically we found our way that way. Joaquin, do you want to say anything about it?
I have an idea. It's the way we write. So Jethro wrote my book in English. He wrote it. I think that this is the word, and it's actually a stronger word than translating, because he actually wrote my book again. He understood what I meant, for the paragraphs or the characters, and he was able to do that, to do what translators do usually. I really like this work, the translator works, because if there were not translators, there wouldn't be universal global translation. So us, the new writers, we the way we can, we're only able to provide global translation, universal translator is through translations. So I thought about this in the first phase with Jethro, and I thought he was right. There were some parts that it would be important to change, and I also chose to in the translation to English, I chose to remove some parts that I thought that were too local. So when we write a book with all the complexity of this mosaic, as this book is, there are many moments that some parts don't work in other languages. So I understood that it was necessary to remove these parts. So about the Unnamed Press, the publisher, this was also another step. I needed to understand also, and there were other questions too. There was some kind of censorship, I mean, and I needed to choose to remove a few words, some parts that would be considered as offensive for the North American public. But in the end, that's what I think, and it was great to work with him. It was a long distance work. We didn't meet in the same city, the same country, so there was distance, and also this took some time. And we did it very calmly with a lot of willingness. It was great.